As a self-professed seed snob, I'm always looking for the absolute best source for seeds ever. And so this year, I'm really excited about trying out a new seed shopping source. This year, I bought most of my flower seeds from Ball. This is a company down in the States. Being Canadian, I had been nervous about shopping with them. Turns out there was no reason to be. They are super easy to order from if you are a wholesale grower in Canada. In fact, they even have a whole collection of Canadian specific customer reps. So they've been a joy. They've been a joy to work with, and their seed list options were a joy to work with too, which is the reason why I went to them in the first place. In this little box, I have $1,900 worth of flower seeds. And when I put this order in and told Ian about it, he rolled his eyes at me because I don't even know if I need flower seeds. I went specifically to order like 3 or 4 things, and I ended up with this entire box. Last year was the first year of being a full-time flower farmer. Previously to that, we had been doing mostly veggies with just a little bit of flowers mixed in. And because of that, I had to do a massive seed shop. I bought so many flowers. I went from having, a box of flower seeds this size to, a mountain of flower seeds. And as I went through the seeds that I still had left over, I mostly didn't need to buy. My approach to seed shopping is that I'll buy a large seed pack. I'll buy, larger than what I think I need, because I'd rather buy 2 years worth of seeds and get a little bit of a better price than, fuss around with small 100 seed packs when what I actually need is 500. I'd rather just get the 1,000 and have 500 this year and 500 next year. If you don't know, most seeds are going to be viable and good for, years and years. Even the most sensitive seeds, you're going to get a year or 2 out of, and that is just specifically for pelleted seed. Even really sensitive to aging out seeds, like for example, straw flowers, they're notorious for needing fresh seed. Even then, if you're using them 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, you're just gonna see a dip in your germination rate. And for me, because I will happily direct seed things with a bundle of seeds, seeing those germination rates go down a little bit is something that I can still work with, especially on a 2-year schedule. I could talk about seeds forever. I have like 100 rule list for how I approach seed shopping. I am definitely a seed snob. I have, very strict guidelines for how I do all these things and what I'm looking for, but I don't want this video to take forever. I want this to be a true unboxing. I want to get to these seeds and I want to go through them and not be talking for 4 hours. I want to tell you guys what I have in this box, why I bought it, how my experience with seeds that are similar or the same seeds have been in the past years through my flower farming experience, and what my hopes are for the 2023 growing season. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, an online learning community with thousands of inspiring and creative classes. But did you know Skillshare has hundreds of career-focused classes too? Having a mountain of seeds isn't what it's going to take to have success on the farm this year. Without improving our time management and productivity, we won't be able to achieve our business goals. I love Productivity Masterclass, Principles and Tools to Boost Your Productivity by Ali Abdal. I've watched lots of his videos, but this is my favorite because I felt like his ideas were easy to understand and apply to my life and career. Whether you're looking to grow your business or just simplify managing your home, I'm sure you'll find value in this video or the thousands more available. The first 1,000 of my viewers to join through my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can achieve your new career goals this year. One of the biggest challenges for me when doing these seed unboxing videos is to know where to start. I'm always very conscious of the reasons that I bought the seeds that I bought, but it's hard to know how to break into explaining the method behind the madness. And one of the only ways I can think to start here today is that I bought zinnias. Just a few. I am very very picky. I mean, I'm picky about all seeds, but I'm very picky about zinnias. I'm growing in an area where zinnias are very, very simple. One of the challenges with zinnias is that they are very susceptible to mildew, like powdery mildews, black mildews. And because I live in a desert, I live in a super dry area, I don't have to be concerned about that as much as a lot of other people do. But even though that is a statement of truth, my zinnias always get taken out by a black mildew by the end of the season. I'm lucky, I can usually get 2 to 3 months out of my plants before that happens, but it happens even to me. So because of that, I am looking for disease tolerance in the zinnias that I grow, and so the only zinnias that I want to grow are the Bennery's giant zinnias. They are the ultimate zinnia if you are growing cut flowers for market. The zinnias are the largest headed zinnias, you know, that I've seen. They're big, they're punchy. They remind me almost of like a Gerber daisy that you would see, you know, in a florist shop. It's big, it's bright, they're very perfect, they're very full, they're definitely doubles, they don't have any sort of single petal issues. And then they have this disease resistance package that just makes them so much more simple to grow. And because they're so much more simple to grow, you get way more production. My Bennery's giant plants, I find I can usually get about a cut a week off of them. And that's doing good deep cuts, making sure I'm getting really generous stems. Because of their bright beauty, because of their love of the hot summer sun that we get, because of their nice long season, they end up being a really important focal flower for me here on the farm. And because of that, I like to grow lots of them. My farm beds here on the farm are 50 feet beds. And in those 50 feet beds, I can plant about 400 plants. And so for me, in most years, I'm doing 2 beds of zinnias. And last year being our first year of being a full-time flower farm, selling a lot of flowers, we ended up, you know, selling $60,000 worth of flowers. So that's a lot of stems. 2 beds of zinnias is what we had. We were aiming to do more. I messed up succession plantings, and 2 beds of zinnias wasn't enough. I really needed to have more zinnias on hand to be available for me to pick. So the plan for this coming up year is more zinnias. Ideally, I'd like to be having 1,600 zinnias, not 800 zinnias. And so I needed a lot of zinnia seeds. One of the silliest things that I bought in my order is 1,000 packed of Bennery's giant mixed zinnias. And the reason why, I don't know why I bought this, is I don't buy mixed packs very often. I would rather buy a handful of packs of every single color than just have the blend. And the reason is that on my farm, because we are working on a high volume production scale, any sort of efficiency saves us time, and time is money. So when I buy my zinnias by individual colors, I'm able to then grow them in patches together, which makes them a lot more easy to sort. Rather than having a mixed bed where I'd have to go through and be like, oh, I need 4 green, I need 3 purple, I can go and I can pick a whole bucket of green, a whole bucket of purple, a whole bucket of pink, a whole bucket of orange, and then that just speeds up all of my workflows. So I honestly don't know why I bought this. I think I was maybe thinking I will use these seeds to do a planting just for aesthetics out at the front of the farm, or Bennery's Giant had some issues in the past years. And it made me very happy that I do this overbuying thing, because last year I couldn't get my hands on a lot of Bennery's Giant colors that I like to grow. The only reason why I didn't have any issues is that I always buy so many seeds that I had so many extra. I used almost all of my Bennery's Giant seeds up last year. The only Bennery's Giant seeds that I still have left are colors that I don't actually really like to work with. So, you know, with these foil packs, having one of these kind of in the vault, you know, this can sit in my seed collection for 5 years. If all it does is make me feel a little bit more comfortable for upcoming seasons, it's money well spent in my opinion. But let's get to the actual colors that I wanted. So I got a 1,000 pack, and let me explain this too. Because Ball is a wholesale seed source, 1,000 pack is their smallest pack size for almost everything. And there was some pack size that even needed to be like 2,000, 5,000 type things. So these seed packs are definitely on the scale of farmers, right? Like 1,000 pack is useful for me as a small farm, but they're not really catering to people who only want 100 seeds. You know, that is kind of considered more of like a gardener scale, and the gardener side of Ball Seeds, I'm pretty sure is Burpee. If that's wrong, I'll put the actual company name up on the screen. So they do have gardener size packs available of these exact same seeds. Okay, so I got Benner's Giant Lilac, which is a gorgeous color. I really like it. I'm intentional about the colors that I buy because I buy them with a bouquet plan in mind. And so the past couple of years, these are the colors that I've been going to again and again. So they're the ones that I want. Okay, and then I got Benner's Giant Coral. This is gorgeous. This has huge value in my bouquets. I really like it mixed with white. Down at the market, I have a really hard time selling white. If I add coral into it, it just brightens up. It makes a very feminine bouquet, and then they sell, whereas, you know, having just straight white, it'll just stay on the stand. The coral's also a really good color for weddings. I'm hoping to sell to some florists this year, so, you know, having a lot of that color is very good for me. Benner's Giant Carmine. Carmine is like, whenever I see that as a flower color, I'm like, yes, please. It's like a vibrant pink. It's like this deep, rich pink color. And I'm putting my money on pink again. I said last year that I thought pink was going to be a big trend, and it did really well. And so I'm growing a lot of pink again this year. It does really well in the summer for me. Another color, Benner's Giant Wine. I love this color. This is one of my favorite colors that it comes in. It's so rich. It's just this deep, rich color. It's great because I can blend it with brights in the summer and it's really punchy. But as I go into the fall, it has this deep, dramatic jewel tone, which makes it really good for going into darker palettes in the fall. It's really versatile for doing a whole array of different looks. I then have Benner's Giant Salmon Rose, and this is another really pretty pink. I think that maybe as I went through the list, I got distracted because having the carmine and the coral should cover me pretty good for pink, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of extra in the bag. Like I said, you never know when pink is going to be hard to come by, and you want to have it on hand. One of my favorite colors to work with, I wish I had an infinite number of flower options in this palette, is Benner's Giant Lime. It's just this beautiful, you know, it's a true lime. I find a lot of flowers that are labeled as green are actually just like a really ugly yellow, which is saying a lot because chartreuse is my favorite color. So I like pukey yellow greens. But often green flowers just kind of look dirty yellow to me, which is hard for me to work with in color palettes. Whereas the Benner's Giant Lime is like lime. It's this really, really nice color. You can make it be very sophisticated, doing it with white. You can make it very bright, tropical, punchy. Pretty much every color palette that I personally enjoy to work with, it works perfect with. So I like growing lots of that. In the past, I have grown a lime queen in the green, and it's like, it isn't as good. I find that, yet again, as I was saying, just the Benner's Giant disease resistance, the Benner's Giant genes of these large, beautiful, perfect flowers just make it the best option. One thing though about it, if you've grown the Benner's series before and you haven't ever tried the lime is a significantly smaller flower size. Like I said, the Benner's Giant, they're these massive, massive flowers. The lime is also always, no matter how poorly or how good I grow it, it's visually significantly smaller. So don't be surprised if you go to grow it and it's not those same big punchy blooms. And if that isn't the case for you, let me know, because maybe there's a trick that I don't know. And then my favorite color in Ben Aries Giant, my favorite color that I was very sad because I was limited on this, and this was one of the things that was the most sold out last year, is Ben Aries Giant Orange. I only got 1,000 pack. I'm kind of surprised. I'm surprised I didn't buy like a 2,000 pack from all the trauma I had of sold out Ben Aries last year. I personally feel like I can't live without orange Ben Aries Giant zinnias. So I'm very, very passionate about them. And then this is my proof that I love Ian and I listened to his feedback. I bought a pack of Scarlet. So this is a red. I don't like reds. I don't like working with reds, but Ian always gives me a hard time when it comes to the flower bouquets because there is no reds. And so he's always like, you need to have that. You need it as an option. His nail to really drive home the point is you can't have a rainbow bouquet without red. And he's right. You know, when I have an entire farm, when I am a flower farm, having red is important. And so I got those seeds for him. And then I got 2 packs from the Lime Queen series. When I was ordering this, they were temporarily sold out of all the colors in the Lime Queen series. So I have another order coming from Johnny's that kind of supplements this order. My absolute favorite is the Lime Queen Orange. These are the perfect flower. They have the lime tones, they have the orange tones, they kind of look antique-y. Just very, very beautiful, very versatile. I personally, one of my favorite bouquets is just a bunch of only these. You know, the Lime Queen series, when you grow them, every flower is a little bit different, right? So you can grow just one color and still get a variation of tones in your patch. So it makes them really fun to work with and to grow. And they look quite high end. They're a smaller flower, but they're still quite large. They're still big enough to be a focal. The colors are unique enough that they're good for weddings. Well, they're also still great for me bringing down to the farmer's market. So, you know, like Ben Aries Giant, I want the Lime Queen series, you know, a significant amount of it, like an entire bed of it on my farm every year. And then the other color that I got is Pure Orange Lime Queen, or the Queen series Orange Pure. I don't know. I don't think I've grown this one before, and it's supposed to just be orange. I think I was getting paranoid because they didn't have the other colors available. The other colors are, there's Lime Blush, which is green, and then it has like a pinky tone in it. And then I think there's just the lime, which, as I said, I prefer the Ben Aries Giant to the lime. And then there's the pink, like Lime Queen Red, I think it's called. And then they have a new color, which I think I wasn't able to find. I think they were sold out at all the places, but they have a peach tone, which I'd love to be able to see in person, but maybe not this year. Maybe it's going to be next year. So that's my mountain of way too many zinnia seeds. But as I said, you know, 1,600 plants. It means I'm probably going to have to plant, you know, more than 2,000 seedlings. It adds up. Next up, we have marigolds. And marigolds are actually the entire reason why I sourced Ball as a new place to buy in the first place. I have been growing cocoa gold marigolds for the last 2 years, and I had bought them from Johnny Seeds, and they are the perfect marigold. I'm obsessed with them. They come on way earlier than any of the other giant marigolds that I grow. The stems that grow on the plant, it branches really nicely and creates a stem that's long enough that I'm able to use it in a bouquet while still keeping a lot of, you know, branches up at the top. It's a very nice shape. And then because it blooms so early, it also has a second flush when the first larger blooms finish, which was just amazing for my fall season. It grew super well, it grew super strong, it loved our weather. You know, it even did fairly good as we went into lower light and cooler nighttime conditions, cooler daytime, through the wet. You know, overall, I'm just super, super happy with it. But all that Johnny's had available was the gold color, and I was really wanting to grow a variety of colors in marigolds. I was sure that for marigold to be so perfect and so great as a cut flower, it must be a series. It had to have other colors, and that Johnny's just wasn't selling it. They only were selling the gold. And so I went to Ball, and Ball, of course, had the other colors for me. So I have 1,000 pack of the Cocoa Gold. I have 1,000 pack of the Deep Orange. So the gold is like a warm orange. It's like a golden orange. Whereas Deep Orange, I assume, is going to be that like really dark, dramatic, orange classic marigold. And then I also got Cocoa Yellow, which looks to be a nice bright, clean yellow. With these three, you know, all my colors are going to be covered. I used a huge amount of marigolds this past season. They ended up being the structure that I built my bouquets around. I used them as greenery. I know a lot of customers don't like marigolds. People tell me all the time, I don't like marigolds, I don't want marigolds. But when push came to shove and I sent marigold bouquets, because almost every bouquet I sent down throughout the fall had marigolds in it, people looked at my bouquets and they were like, I love these beautiful mums that you have in every bouquet. Or I would send down things without the marigolds, and they would be the ones that came back. So even though my customers were verbalizing they didn't like marigolds, no one knew that the cocoa marigolds were actually marigolds. So it means that they liked what they saw, even though the name, you know, wasn't something that they'd specifically asked for. I also sold a huge amount of marigolds to a florist to do arch work. The marigolds, they're really lush. They can handle the heat. You know, that's why they're used for all the Day of the Dead celebrations. They hold their shape really nicely. And so because of that, they were great for her to do out of water work. You know, a lot of the florists in our area, they are very, you know, eco, sustainable type of focus. We have a lot of weddings in our area, and there's lots of brides who want those values to be reflected in their weddings. So having something like this where maybe a florist wouldn't think to order in marigolds to work with in their wedding work, having them as an option that, you know, I can be like, look, this is going to be a really good option, is something that I can maybe push and sell even more of. And then I got one more marigold, and this I'm really excited about. I don't know how to say this. It's Xochi. I'm saying like Zoshi, I think is maybe the pronunciation. But I've seen lots of other flower farmers talking about this. This is supposed to be the most incredible, dramatic marigold blooms you've ever seen. These are supposed to blow all other flowers out of the water for marigolds. They're supposed to be so big, so beautiful, so stunning. I honestly, guys, I'm not the best grower. I do struggle sometimes with growing. I find flowers way more difficult to grow than veggies in general. And so, you know, over the last, 4 years, we're going into our 5th year with the farm. I've gained a lot of knowledge, but I'm still not like an expert when it comes to growing flowers. I'm excited to see what I can do with these. I don't know that I'm going to get those like showstopper marigold blooms, but it would be fun if I get something close to that. Next up, we have Snapdragons. And if marigolds are the reason that I came to Ball in the first place, Snapdragons are the reason that I'm going to stay shopping with Ball forever, because this is the most exciting thing I've ever seen, even though I know that a lot of you won't understand just seeing this. This is pelleted Snapdragon seed, which makes me so happy. So let me explain this. Snapdragon seeds look like dust. Like, I can't even compare them to sand, because sand is like gritty and granular. Snapdragon seeds are so small and so difficult to work with. But they are one of those things that, you know, I really do need to be starting from seed. You can plant them out really early. They have a lot of cold tolerance, but that means that I have to be fussing with them indoors. For me, it's impossible to seed, you know, 1 or 2 seeds per, you know, plug. And so because of that, I end up, you know, seeding out, like just sprinkling an entire pack of seeds onto a tray, letting them grow, and then picking out the individual little plants when they first start, potting them up. It's a very complicated system. It's quicker than fighting with the dust, but there has to be a better way. And the better way is pelleted seed. So what pelleted seed is they put like a clay coating around a seed. And they do this to make it easier to handle. They do this so that seeds that, you know, are of a shape that commercial manufacturing seed starting equipment can't manage, they can then be managed once they're in the pelleted form. One of the downsides about pelleted seeds, which I alluded to earlier in the video, is that they usually prime the seeds. They do some, you know, I don't exactly understand what they do, but they do stuff to the seeds that makes it so they're going to have even better germination rate often. And I don't know, don't quote me on this. This is my understanding. This is my limited understanding. I could be wrong. And then because of that, the seed life on the pelleted seed, you really should try to use it in the first year. I've been buying Johnny's Salanova lettuce, which is pelleted, and I've had good luck using it in the second year, but I know other growers that say like they get 0 germination, where I'm still seeing kind of like a 75% instead of 100. So I am interested to experiment with, because these are all 1,000 packs and I don't know that I necessarily need thousands of every individual color. I'm interested to see with the shelf life for pelleted Snapdragon seeds, but just something to consider if you can ever be as lucky as me and get to use pelleted Snapdragon seeds. Okay, so what I got is I got Potomac white. So I'm really I'm picky about everything, but I'm really picky about Snapdragons. I mean, I'm going to say this before I talk about every single specific thing I get. I've experimented with Snapdragons and I've decided that I know what I want and I don't want anything else. And Potomac is one of those. So what I deal with here on the farm is that I'm in Canada, I'm in zone 5, I have winter, it's snowy out, it's cold, it's gonna be minus 20 tomorrow overnight. So we have to deal with some real serious weather. But by March, it's nice. The snow is gone. It's still freezing, but it's kind of hovering in these like nice spring weather. And that's nice. And then we have something similar in April too. It kind of, you know, freezes at night, but it's, you know, warm enough during the day that things can start growing. And this is a great window for getting Snapdragons out. They can really handle those freezes. They can handle the cold. I don't have to worry about them, and then they'll bloom earlier. But come May, we go, instead of like, we're like, oh, it's spring, instead of like ramping up into the heat, you know, like other people's weather systems are, we're like, oh, you know, it's freezing at night, but it's like pleasant during the day when it's sunny. And then it's like, oh, it's like summer. It's like, now it's like 100 degrees out. There's like no transition period. And because of that, and because of the heat that we get, it can be really hard on the Snapdragons. And so the Potomac series is the series of Snapdragons that I've found that doesn't really get affected by the summer heat. They don't get other Snapdragons that I have growing. They kind of really suffer when the heat spikes up, and the Potomac seems to, you know, not care. They're like, whatever. And then they bloom in the heat. You know, I don't really have to worry. One of the things that is complicated about Snapdragons, I'm just going to mention this. I can't get into this because I said this wasn't going to be 4 hours long. But Snapdragons, you don't necessarily succession plant snapdragons in that, you know, I buy this Potomac white and then I plant 200 of them in March and 200 of them in April and 200 of them in May to get, you know, a steady series of blooms out of them. Snapdragons are really, they're affected by daylight hours. So they get triggered for when they will bloom according to how long your day length. And so because of that, if you want to have successions of snapdragon blooms, you need to be buying different seed that has different day length requirements before blooming is triggered. So the Potomac is a summer bloomer. It is supposed to bloom during that window. And then beyond that, like I said, I find it handles the heat really nicely. So that's why Potomac. So I got Potomac white, I got Potomac early orange, and I bought that because the normal orange was sold out. So I was like, whatever, I'll give it a try. I'll see when it blooms. And then I got Potomac, not pelleted, cherry rose, because the Snapdragon options were a little limited when I was shopping, and I want lots of Snapdragons. And my Snapdragon seed is limited. This was one of the seeds that I really needed to order this year. And then what I really wanted was Potomac lavender, but it was sold out. So I'm willing to experiment this year with Maryland lavender. It's also a summer blooming series. It's supposed to bloom at the same time. And I've heard other flower farmers say that they have really good luck with it in the heat. So give it a try, see how it works for me. I'm excited to see, because if I have like Maryland and Potomac, I can maybe grow those together to get like a little bit of variation in bloom time, you know, because if I plant so what happens with the Potomacs when I plant it is the different colors bloom at different times. So it'll be like, oh, Potomac orange bloomed first, and then the next week Potomac pink blooms, and then the week after that Potomac, I don't know, white blooms. And so I kind of like, you know, I'm like, okay, this week I'm working with all this color because of, you know, how I've chosen my seeds. If I end up working with Maryland, maybe there's a chance that what I do instead is I grow Maryland white and Potomac white, and then I have my Potomacs bloom, you know, in the one week, and then the Marylands bloom in the following week, and then I have a little bit of a longer season in that color. So, you know, it's just good to keep experimenting with options while mostly sticking to the things that work. One more summer blooming. So I like the Potomac because they're the classic shape of the Snapdragon. I personally really prefer just classic Snapdragons. They're the look that I like. I like how structural they are. You know, in the Potomacs, they have these incredible stem length. But we are talking about selling to more florists this year. And so because of that, you know, I wanted to get some of the frilly fancy ones. So for the summer, I have Madame Butterfly in a mix. You know, I don't like growing mixes, but it's something that, you know, I can give it a try. I found the Madame Butterfly. I grew them last year for the first time. They bloomed in the summer, you know, along with the Potomacs type thing. And they didn't like the heat quite as much, and they were shorter. So they got a little weedy for me. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that they were short because I affected them in a negative way. But there is a chance that, you know, for me wanting like a good long stem, that the Madame Butterfly just might not be a series that it's worth it for me to grow because they're just that little bit too short. But still, you know, obviously fully a cut flower version of a Snapdragon, and beautiful too, if for gardens, right? They're very fancy looking, mixed into the garden. And then the other frilly one that I got is one of my spring blooming ones, which is the Chantilly mix. And this is, you know, frilly. The Chantilly is super early. One thing that I also really like about the Chantilly is it has really, really good cold tolerance. Honestly, the Snapdragon that I've grown that has the most cold tolerance is Rocket, just classic. I find it's just not perfect enough for me to want to grow it as a cut flower. The Potomac just looks a lot better, but the Rockets over winter for me in zone 5, not in a greenhouse, I'm sure, no problem. You know, as long as you have enough snow cover. And the Chantilly, I experimented with these a couple of years ago in a greenhouse overwintered, and they did really good too. And when other plants might look like sad and droopy following a cold night in my spring, the Chantillies are like, nah, I love it. Give me more. So I do like this in the spring because they are so hardy and so not fussy. The other spring Snapdragon that I like to grow is Costa, but Ball didn't have any of the Costa series. They had a lot of early Snapdragons that I'm not familiar with, that I didn't recognize from having shopped with, Johnny's and other similar places over the last handful of years. And I didn't buy any seeds, but I do have some Ball Snapdragon seedlings coming, more early blooming ones that I have coming in March. And so I'm going to be doing an experiment with some of their cooler season, like first blooming Snapdragons. And so, I'm excited. Maybe next year I'm going to have a totally different list of the best Snapdragons. Next up, I have my Cosmos. And I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Cosmos. I love Cosmos because they just produce and produce and produce. You can get these long stems on them. You can have a small patch of them and get hundreds and hundreds of stems. They're kind of always there for you if you need them. They're super easy to grow. They handle the heat no problem. They're mindless. They're so mindless and easy to grow that they actually on my farm are a weed problem. I try to make sure anywhere that I grow the Cosmos, I do it on landscape fabric because they shed so many seeds that I'll be fighting Cosmos seedlings for years to come following having, a planting. Even though they have all these great things about them, they are really difficult to pick. They're quite delicate. The petals can fall off really easily. They have this nice romantic look, but they look ratty if they're gonna lose all their petals. We mostly sell down at the farmer's market. We mostly sell these kind of like market bunches. So they need to handle being handled, right? Our customers, even at the roadside stand, need to be able to come and grab it and throw it in their cars, the seat beside them in their car, and take them home and smash them around a little bit before they get them into the vase. And not all Cosmos do that. I also, because I'm doing these, market bouquets, my goal is to have really long vase life on everything. And Cosmos do have incredible vase life, but they have this great vase life because they'll have a flower and then a couple buds, and the flower will last 3 days, and in the vase, the other buds will open up. So they do last for, a good 10 days if you cut them at the right time, but they look a little messy. They're dropping petals, they're maybe not staying as perfect as other flowers do, and that can give people a bad impression of your flowers. Every year I say that, no, that's it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to grow less. But every year I also discover a few more that I really like. I discover a little bit more about how to manage them. I discover, I get less fussy. I'm like, I know what they are. I know what they're going to do. And so because of that, every year I plant a 50-foot bed. If you watch these seed unboxing videos, every year my Cosmo list changes. So I feel like I'm getting narrowed in, but I also feel like I'm getting further and further away from the things that I like. And who knows, maybe 5 years from now, I'm going to be back with the original Cosmos that I grew. So take what I have to say with a grain of salt. Cosmos annoy me. So, I gripe about them a lot, but they're all great. Well, they're all problematic. So one of the series that was the first one that I loved is the Double Click series, and I have 1,000 pack of the mix. And the mix, I think, has 4 colors. It has white, a dark pink. It has this kind of purpley pink, and then a cleaner pink. And the Double Click mix are these frilly, super full flowers. What I liked about them originally is they're really strong. They're really hardy. I could take a bunch of just Double Click cosmos, I could smash them against a wall and then show you the bunch and it would still kind of look the same. There's so many petals on the flowers that if they drop petals, it doesn't change what they look like. Because of that, they drop more petals, which is a problem. And also they're heavy, right? So one of the things that I now like about cosmos is the way they're kind of like have this like soft movement. And the double click can instead kind of be weak stemmed. They can kind of like sag a little bit. So the more I grow it, the more I've been going away from these doubles. But despite that, I still grow some of it every year. And especially I grow a whole section of the snow puff double click, which is the white. And I grow this because, you know, if I need any sort of wedding, bridal, white type stuff, there's not very many whites that are as simple and easy to grow as a Cosmo in the white. Last year I grew afternoon white, which is a single. It has a nice yellow center. Oh, and also these, because they're so full, you often don't see the yellow centers on these, which makes them more formal for wedding work. Yeah, the afternoon white, I really liked it. And so I'm leaning more towards that. I have some of those coming as well too. But, you know, thinking back, one of my favorite Cosmos that I used was out of the double click mix was the kind of like purpley toned one. I was really enjoying blending it with oranges, and it made this like kind of really unique and really sophisticated color palette. And I was like, well, I kind of want to do that again. So, you know, like I said, I love them and I hate them. The one though that I discovered that is kind of the best is Rubenza. The Rubenza is what started me in on wanting to grow the singles. Because the first year I grew the Rubenza, I grew it because people said it was really early. And it's true. It's blooming with kind of early summer flowers. Whereas the Cosmos are like solidly a summer flower. They are crazy, crazy frost tolerant or intolerant. They're probably one of the most frost sensitive flower plants that we grow on the entire farm. They're kind of the canary in the mine. When they go, I know that frost is coming for other things, but they'll die out even when it's not frost. They'll just be like, oh, it was cold last night, I don't like it. But so the Rubenza comes on really early and it's a nice dramatic color. What I discovered this last year, because I've been growing this Rubenza for a few years, and as I said, Cosmos are these nasty weeds. The spot that I picked the most out of all of my Cosmos was where I'd grown Rubenzas in the past. And so I had these self-seeded kind of Rubenza hybrids that ended up looking a lot more carmine than this like deep color that the Rubenza is. And the plants had a lot more vigor. The flowers were a lot bigger. They looked a lot cleaner and the plants grew healthier and stronger. So I don't know if the Rubenza seed that I got last year that I'd planted was just kind of weak, or if maybe I just really like what these revert to when you kind of save seed on it. But yeah, so if some of the stuff that I call Rubenza in past years isn't necessarily what Rubenza seed will look like. And then the one that I'm really excited about, new for this year, but I'm also like, it's Cosmo, it's not going to be what I want it to be, is apricot lemonade. And I've seen these on other farms. I've seen these in person. Another local farm was growing them and selling bunches of them. So I've seen them. I like the colors. I'm really excited for the color palette. I think that Cosmos are a hard sell for florists, but I think that maybe this apricot lemonade, the coloring's so unique, it might be appealing for wedding work. But I don't know if it's going to be tall enough to get really good stem lengths out of it. So we'll have to see. Next up, we got my most expensive seed out of all of the seeds. These ended up being 25 cents per seed, which is like really pricey. Most of my seeds are like a penny, you know, like Benner's Giant. I don't know. I guess Benner's like 5 cents to a penny. Stuff that's like really cheap can be even like, you know, a tenth of a penny. So spending 25 cents on a seed, you know, and especially like, because are you actually going to be able to grow every seed into a plant? For me, I know the answer is no. So it feels a little risky. But the reason why these are so expensive is because they're actually perennials. So what this is Scabiosa fama, and this is deep blue in color specifically. I bought 200 of these, and then I also bought the fama white, 200 of those as well. And so last year I tried Scabiosa for the first time, annual Scabiosa, and I grew some of these fama perennial Scabiosas. And I really didn't like the Scabiosa. They were these tiny little flowers. They were on these really wiry stems. They're super fussy to pick. They just, in my opinion, for the work that I do, they didn't have enough value to justify picking them. I actually didn't even ever pick them because I was like, no, too much work. I don't need that. But my famas, they were gorgeous. They were beautiful. Whereas the annual Scabiosa was about this big in flower size, the famas were just these massive, beautiful formal flowers. And I used a lot of the blue. I was doing these kind of like sunflower and then blue, like yellow and blue bouquets throughout the early summer. And they were selling really well. Everyone really liked how dramatic the blue was, and that was mostly my fama deep blue plants. And then the whites, almost every single white I sold to a florist. She'd come by looking for white, and it was the most formal white that I had, and she bought pretty much every stem. I'm hoping that my famas come back next year and they come back stronger and they have even more blooms. They didn't actually have very many flowers per plant. I'd probably say I got like 3 or 4 cuts off of them in total, and that was across the entire season. You know, if they could bulk up and be something that's gonna give me like 10 cuts a year, then they make a lot of sense. But because they can, what I'm hoping is they need time to ramp up. My goal this year is to start more. I had about 50 of each, so 100 in total, in a small section of perennials. And so that's really not much. Like I said, we have 400 plants per my 50-foot bed, so it's like a quarter bed. For me to be able to pick something worth, I want to pick a bucket's worth every week of anything that I have on a farm. If I don't have at least a bucket, it's a difficult volume to work with for me. So I'm going to be bulking up my fama patch. I'm hoping to, have at least a half a bed, maybe even a little bit more when I grow out these seeds, which will make me really happy. I was also running a little bit low on Matricaria or Feverfew. I grew 4 varieties of Feverfew last year. I grew a single, I think it was a magic, like the single magic, it was the series. Then I grew a double, and I can't remember the name of the double. It was beautiful. It was really nice. And then I grew a green one, which was dirty yellow, and I hated it. And then I grew another one that was kind of like a pincushion look in the white, and it also looked kind of dirty, and it didn't have the appeal of Feverfew, the classic, the very feminine cottage feel, the wildflower feel of the Feverfew, the Matricaria. So my plan for this year is 2 types. I'm gonna grow the single classic, and then I'm also gonna grow the frilly double. So this is the double, the White Wonder. So I'm excited to have more of those on hand. And this along with my Snapdragons and the famas, they're in the list of things that I need to get started this week. Next up, we have all my Celosia, and I'm really excited about these. I suck really, really badly at growing Celosia. I haven't figured out the trick. My theory about Celosia is that being Canadian, I'm borderline on being hot enough to get a good crop on it. Up here in Canada, it's really hard for us to grow melons. We just don't get enough heat units to get like a really good harvest off of them. And I suspect that Celosia is the same idea. Even though I don't hear, this is me. This is my theory. This isn't like science. I also suspect that Celosia is really sensitive to getting root bound. I think that in general, I'm maybe not as on the ball for getting my seedlings into the ground at the prime time. And a lot of what I grow, aside from Celosia, is very forgiving, and Celosia is like, no, don't leave me in the tray. You have to get me into the ground at a better time. Because of that, I think that Celosia probably would really benefit from being direct seeded, but I'm just borderline for being able to successfully do it. Maybe if I was to direct seed it into a greenhouse, but you know, at the same time, Celosia, it feels like a silly thing to give greenhouse space to. So the other thing that I'm doing is I'm growing some other varieties that are, you know, a little bit more professional cut flower varieties. I'm growing some varieties that are going to be already more outstanding plants. So hopefully that'll give me a little bit more leeway in growing them badly. Two varieties that I have tried growing before is Pampas Plume, and I got this in the mix. I really love this. I love the look of this. This is classic. The seed is super cheap. It's super weedy. If you leave it in your garden, it just comes up everywhere. But I really like these super bright colors. I really like the shape. They look like pampas grass, why they're called Pampas plumes, but then in these bright, vivid neon colors. If I can figure out how to grow this good, make me happy. So we'll see. I'm gonna keep, this is one of those ones I want to just keep trying until I figure it out. And then the other one that I grew last year, and I messed up, I grew it really badly. Like I just didn't get them in the ground on time, but they were still gorgeous despite that, is Selway terracotta. The color on these is incredible. Like, incredible. There's so many things that say they're terracotta, and you know, they're kind of like pinky, they're, you know, like a weird color. This one, like, this is like what I want all terracotta flowers to look like. Just beautiful, beautiful coloring. And then the shape of it was like formal. It was smaller, the spike on it, more similar to like a feather variety. And I've seen it grown well. I have a flower friend who grew this really nicely, and so I know what it can be. So I'm excited to do it properly this year. An expensive new one that I'm trying out. This was expensive. This was 15 cents a seed, and it's pelleted, which is exciting. Celosia, like the seeds aren't tiny for Celosia, but they're like waxy almost. Like they're kind of sticky, almost like they feel like they have a plastic coating on them. So the pelleting would be nice to get them to not be staticky when working with them. So I can see why they've done pelleted as an option. But yeah, so this is Neo Rose, and this is more of like the brain type in that rose color. And it's expensive, but it's supposed to grow this like absolutely perfect flower. So I'm really excited to see that. And then I got a couple other of those kind of more brain style ones, because I've never been able to successfully grow them, but I want to. So another one that's a bit more expensive, and it's more of that formal, real cut flower, you know, production style seed is Act. I got a 500 pack of this in mixed colors. And so I'm excited to see how this works out. In the pictures, they look incredible, just the colors and the shape and everything. And then a cheaper seed, and then this is less of like the brain, like where it's like lots. This is more of just like the fan style. And I've grown this before poorly, didn't really do anything. And so yet again, I want to try growing it well. This is Super Crest Mix. And the fans are nice. The fans are nice in my market bouquets. Those like big brainy ones, those would be amazing if I could have them for doing like a bigger, more impactful bouquet. But like one of the fans, you know, like if they can be up to the size of the hand, they look really nice when you look down in the bouquet, because it's just a little bit of color. It's not so much overwhelming, the bouquet. So I'm really hopeful on this. And then the last one that I have is Century Salmon Pink, and this is a Pampas Plume style Celosia too. But it's just that little bit more formal, little bit more of a professional grade seed. And then it's just in the one color. I'm giving this a try because I'm hoping that maybe some of the issues I've been having with Pampas Plume is just that it's not as good seed. So buying a better hybrid will make it a little bit easier for me to grow. I'm hoping this is the year. This is the year for amazing Celosia. Got my fingers crossed. This is all that's left. We're getting there. Okay, so this Carthamus Grenade Orange. I've been really excited about this. This is something I've been thinking about for 2 years now. I have a really unique growing area. There's only one area that is kind of similar when it comes to flower farming to what I'm doing here, and that is Denver. We have a lot of like high-end customers. There's a lot of money that comes into Kelowna. It's like a summer vacation town. There's a lot of people who come here for weddings. And then we have these winters. We're in the mountains. The cold, snowy winters, we freeze hard. But then in the summer, we're dry, we're desert, and we get these really high heats. We get this spike from spring into summer, and then it continues really late. We're dealing with things that makes it so general advice about flower farming isn't always applicable for me. And that's why sometimes in the advice that I share with you guys, I like to try to teach the lesson that I've learned and not necessarily the exact thing that I'm doing. Because the exact thing that I'm doing is often exactly the wrong thing to do in a farm where you get lots of water, lots of humidity and things like that. So the reason why I'm telling you all this is I saw a farm on social media in that area, and they were saying that Carthamus is kind of like their backbone to all of their summer bouquets. It's just this amazing filler for them, and it handles a lot of their unique growing difficulties really, really well. And it kind of like stuck in my brain, and I've been like, I gotta try that one of these years. And then it's just, I've been so overwhelmed with so much that we're doing that it's been too much to take on trying to grow an entirely new plant and learning like an entire new plant. But this is the year, because it sounds like it could be doing exactly what I want and exactly what I need. So I'm really excited to give this a serious test. And this might answer problems for me that I've been struggling with over the last 2 years of trying to figure out how to have a filler base to quickly go together for my bouquets, to try to get my bouquets just that little bit more efficient and a little bit more time for me, so I don't stay up till 6 in the morning on Fridays. Instead, I go to bed at a reasonable time, like midnight. This is all stuff that I direct seed, and because of that, I need a larger volume of seed. And because I need a larger volume of seed, I blew through a lot of seed last year when I bought a lot. Okay, so what I got here is Atriplex Green Plume. I didn't grow this last year, but I grew red Atriplex. Red Plume Atriplex, which I also purchased. And I grew a bronze Atriplex. And I can't remember, I thought I grew one other color. I can't remember. But they're gorgeous. They're beautiful. I think that they're quinoa is what they are. You don't grow them for the flowers, you grow them for the seeds that they set. And because I direct seeded them, they grew up this like spike, this like single stem, and then they're just dense and covered in seeds, and the color was just beautiful and dramatic, and the seed was like larger. It wasn't like like a millet or something. It was large enough that it gave this really impactful look, and it was really unique and really different, and I want it every year. so I bought a lot. I ended up buying 5,000 of the red and then 2,000 to experiment with on the green, and I have the bronze coming from Johnny's. They didn't have the bronze available at Ball, but I liked it so much that I needed to get it. Another one that I need a ton of, 5,000, is Buplurum, and this is the graffiti variety. Last year was the first year that I grew Buplurum. It always gets stuck in my mouth. And I love. It's the best. It's the best thing ever. It prefers the cool spring weather. So I don't know if I could have this all year long, but if I could, I want it. It was incredible as a filler. It ends up having this like chartreuse kind of flower thing. It was great as when it was flowering. It kind of set seed. It was still great. It held in the field for, I think I was picking off of it for 4 weeks off of a single planting, which that's really good. That's like really good for something to last that long. Things usually age out before that. Yeah, so just really happy. It dried really well. I was using it in all of my dried bouquets, especially in my fresh to dry bouquets that I was doing. It had this incredible detailing, and you know, it's the type of thing I would use in weddings. I imagine that florists would want to buy this. I have a lot of faith that Biplurum is what everyone else needs to. And then the other thing that I was super excited about for fresh and dried in kind of a similar way was the Nigella, Albion, green pod, and black pod. And so these, yet again, Nigella, they have these like blue flowers, blue or white flowers that are like pretty little spring things, kind of similar to like a bachelor button, just like little insipid things that are difficult to pick. And so I'm not interested in that. These Nigella are so that they do that, and then they set seed and they have these pods. And so the stem ends up having this like cluster of these pods, and the pods are actually quite large. So they're really visually impactful. Look great fresh, and then they dry and look amazing too. And the black ended up having like these really purpley tones to it. So it was like really dramatic for using in these darker ones. The green is just fresh and pretty, and it dried into a really nice green. So I'm really excited to have it to work with again. And you know, like the Biplurum, I didn't do any sort of succession planning. I just kind of planted it and then got, you know, up to 4 weeks to pick off of it. You know, and I'm excited to maybe try to find a way I can maybe get 6 weeks out of them, like, because I enjoyed working with them so much. And that's it. That's all of them. $1,900 worth of seeds. And one thing to keep in context for like when I throw out numbers like that is the volumes that I'm working with. Like I said, like the smallest packs on these are wholesale. These are for farmers. This company is selling seeds like by the pound to these farms that are growing an acre of stuff. You know, so with the Bennery's Giants, I'm getting 1,000 pack, and you know, they're costing like 50 cents for that packet of seeds, and then I'm buying, you know, 10 colors. So, you know, I spent $500 in zinnias. So, you know, the money numbers are, you know, it makes it seem like there's a lot, but the other thing to consider is, you know, then here I am on my farm, I'm talking about having 1,600 zinnia plants, and I found my zinnias usually produce about a stem a week. So, you know, in the course of a single week of picking just the zinnias, you know, I'm able to pay for the cost of the entire seed order for the year. So, you know, keep it in context. But I hope that you guys enjoyed learning all about some of the things that I have coming up for the upcoming year. I'm really excited. It's always a struggle for me to get through winter because I love being outside. I love growing. I love having my hands in the dirt. I love being surrounded by green things. And by the time we get to now in this season, it's been a long time since I've been able to do any of that. And it's hard for me to look forward to it when it's still so far in the future. But when these seed orders, when my boxes of seeds start showing up, it means that it's time, it's coming up. You know, like I said, a lot of these seeds I'm going to be starting to, the Snapdragons and bits and pieces, I'm going to be starting to grow this week. The season has started. The farm is officially going to begin for 2023, and it will be, you know, only a few months before we're back into the beautiful blooms. And, you know, I'm excited to think about, you know, it's as fun as it is to show you this pile of seeds. It's going to be so much more exciting to show it all to you when they turn into flowers. So hopefully there was some tips there for you. Hopefully I didn't make you go too crazy for wanting to go shopping yourself. And I'll see you guys next time.